welcome to Discover Ramona, where we explore the people, places, and businesses that make it the best place to live. I'm your host, Valerie, and I'm here with my co-host, Jan Ryan. Hi, Jan.
Hi, Valley.
How's things going?
Everything's great.
So I know there's some ways that sellers can really fumble on a sale. What are some of the biggest seller mistakes?
Well, the biggest mistake I see right now is inventory has more than doubled. So it's a lot more competitive when you list your house. So you have to take every edge you can. And when a seller overprices their home to start, right now they lose all the momentum and end up getting a lower price than they would have. So that is the biggest mistake.
Okay, pricing it right.
Pricing it right as everything and getting it market ready.
Okay, so who did you bring for us today?
Today we have Joel Anderson, County Supervisor for our area.
All right, let's meet him.
Let's meet him.
Joel Anderson, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. And Jan, thank you for inviting me.
So glad you could make it. Thank you.
So we want to talk a little bit about kind of what your role is in the county and specifically surrounding Ramona and kind of the things, the initiatives you've pushed and the direction that we want to take Ramona in the next couple of years. So can you touch on that?
Absolutely. So I'm one of 5 board of supervisors. There's 500,000 people that live in the unincorporated communities like Ramona, Lakeside, Alpine, and we're their only government. So everyone else has a mayor and a city council. There's no city council for Ramona. They have a board of supervisor, and it takes 3 votes on the board of soups to do anything in the district.
Okay.
So that's what we do all the time. And I'm the only supervisor that lives in the unincorporated. And so I'm especially sensitive to the needs of Ramona because in my community of Alpine, we have very similar needs. And so, for example, I worked very hard to get an extra helicopter that fights fire at night. Up until now, we never had night capacity. So even though the fires go 24/7, our flights all shut down at dusk. And now we have the ability to fight fire 24/7.
Well, that just makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, it does because I actually represented Ramona during the Cedar Fire.
Okay.
And so we lost over 2,000 homes in my Senate district back then. And, we lost lives. People were in the car. They couldn't speed away from the fire. The fire overtook them. They died in their car. Horrible, horrible circumstances. And yet we've improved our ability to fight those fires. And that's a good thing for all of us.
Absolutely.
And I think some of the things that we also want to touch on is the direction of where we wanted to take those parts of the county. Can you touch on those?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's, in our charter, in our county charter, there's no protections for the unincorporated. In fact, what we saw last year was my colleagues voted on a 4-1 vote to give $33 million to the flood victims in San Diego. Look, I want to help our neighbors, so I'm not against that. But why didn't we help the flood victims in Phoenix? Well, it's because it's not our community. Well, it's not our responsibility
Right.
either. So we took the unincorporated tax dollars. We took my tax dollars, your tax dollars, and we gave it to the city of San Diego. Yet we had no control over the city repairing its reservoirs and ravines to keep from future flooding. So, and we didn't control the permit process, so that we just simply gave money to people in that, and I don't think that's the best way.
Proper use.
I want to help
Right.
those folks, but I want to help them in a way that avoids that in the future. Because our charter doesn't protect our tax dollars, 3 votes, and everybody that I serve with lives west of I-15. In fact, most of them are coastal. We've got Oceanside, Encinitas, San Diego, and then at one point Chula Vista, but that seat's vacant right now. None of those folks understand the backcountry, the places that we live in, and 500,000 people live in that backcountry. So transferring our tax dollars to the cities to improve their life, their coastal lives, is a horrible direction. And I'm not saying that they're bad people. They just don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And in the past, our county always had at least 2 members that lived in the unincorporated, so we had representation. Now we don't have that representation. And when I leave office in 3 years, there's a chance that somebody from the city of San Diego is going to represent my district after I leave. You see, the biggest
Oh.
voting block in my district now is San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
where it used to be the unincorporated. Now that's shifted because the way they redistricted all of us. So one of the things I'm looking for with Ramona is would they be interested in pursuing becoming a city?
Got it.
They can't do a city by themselves, but if you were to look at Lakeside and Alpine, those three communities would create a city of close to 100,000 people, but they would also have the tax base to support a new city.
Mm.
The rules to become a city are convoluted, and you have to pay your current taxes to the county even though you don't get any services from them
Mm.
for a decade. So you have to have another tax base in moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got elected, 58,000 homes were by right. That means that if you own the land, you could build that home for your son, your daughter, your parents, your neighbor. You could build that home because you owned it. My board voted to change the climate action plan in such a way that it's impossible to build. And they also changed the VMT, which is vehicle miles traveled, the calculation. So it's virtually impossible to build unless it's low income housing.
This has got to be incredibly frustrating for you when you
Well,
go
it
to this.
is. And as a city, we could restore that housing because I think that if you talk to most people that live in the unincorporated,
Mm-hmm.
when they move there, uh, they could move into their parents' neighborhood. Now there's no room in their parents' neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
and for their children to be part of our community. That's why you see so many people living in Riverside
Mm-hmm.
and Tijuana.
Okay.
And yet, when you went up to Riverside, when I first was in the state Senate, 16% of my district was Riverside. I went from Lake Elsinore to Lemon Grove out to Imperial. 400,000 people grew in a short period of time, and I had to downsize my district to 1 million people. It was 1,000,004. And it was because that went from 16% to 28% of my district, and now it's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be when you'd hit I-15 at Nordall, there was no traffic and you could fly up to Temecula. Now it's bumper to bumper traffic because all the jobs are in our county, but all the housing's in their county.
Mm-hmm.
That housing, our workforce housing, should be in our community so that our kids have opportunities to grow up near their grandparents.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, if I understand you right, if Lakeside, Ramona, and Alpine were to incorporate, they would essentially be able to have more control over their funds.
Absolute
They
control.
would be able to have a little bit more control over their building permitting process and kind of retain their sovereignty when the next voting cycle comes up.
I did a good job of explaining it because
Yes.
you're 100%
Excellent.
correct.
Okay.
Uh, that's the problem. See, 37% of my district, city of San Diego. So the person could live in Allied Gardens, 30 miles from where I live, and then they would be representing me. How often do they go to Pine Valley or to Scanso or to Ramona and even know what's going on in that community?
Right.
And so it's unfair to only allow city people to represent 500,000 people that live in the unincorporated. They're not part of the city.
Well, I have a question then. How do we ignite the grassroots community in those areas to go after this initiative and make it real?
Well, thank you today for your podcast
Okay.
because getting the message out is really important. This year, I'm focused on talking to every group in the community, whether it's Kiwanis or Rotary or whomever, and walking them through the process because there is a process. And only the people who want to become the new city get to vote.
Okay.
So nobody in the city of San Diego is going to vote. Unlike La Jolla, where they're trying to succeed from the city,
Mm-hmm.
the whole city votes on whether they're allowed to leave.
Mm-hmm.
No. Only the people who want to be part of the city get to vote to be in
Wow.
the city.
Okay.
So right now we're looking at Ramona, Lakeside, and Alpine. And look, I looked at Ramona. I found for my business, it was too far for my business. Alpine was closer because I'm 2 minutes from the freeway, and
Mm-hmm.
67 made me nervous at the time. But our communities are very similar. We're equestrian properties. We like rural living, and we should be able to control our destiny.
Sure.
Right now, coastal elite are making those choices for us.
Okay.
And they said we don't deserve to have any more homes.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing they want to give us are sexually violent predators in low-income housing,
Okay.
which I have 92% of sexually violent predators. They're not putting them in La Jolla.
No, they put them in the rural
Yeah.
areas.
They're putting them in our communities.
Okay, so is it something that's going to be voted on next cycle, or how does this?
That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
So what we're working towards is we have a petition. People can sign the petition. I want to get 10,000 people to sign. If we get 10,000 people to sign, then we can qualify the ballot without having to spend any money. And now we have to pay for a study, but I do have some folks, when you think about who are the largest employers in my district, it's tribes. Whether
Okay.
it's hotel workers, restaurant
sense.
workers, casino workers, and yet most of them live in Tijuana or Riverside and have to commute. If we were to build $400,000 to $700,000 homes, that's workforce housing. It'd be affordable. People could live there. And when you're thinking about some of the challenges that we go through in the rural parts, earlier this year, my power was turned off from Sunday to Wednesday. And everyone was angry with me because I was sick and I couldn't show up to my board meeting. And you're allowed to call in. The problem is I had no electricity. So I couldn't call in because even with the best iPhones, it doesn't last 4 days.
Yeah.
And I didn't get power again until Wednesday afternoon, and I lost it on Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
So we literally could create new subdivisions that are their own circuit.
Okay.
They'll never have their power turned off again, and they would control their own destiny with their own power.
Got it.
There are all sorts of new technologies that we could use to create a better future, less polluting, higher quality of life. And there's no, I always joke, over 60 years ago, we sent a man to the moon with a slide ruler because we didn't have computers. And yet today, with high-speed computers, we can't get anything done.
Oh, yeah.
That's because we don't have the will and we don't have the representation.
Well, we have the will. We're going to get that petition signed.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
will. Let
you
us
can go
know.
to my county website.
Okay.
If you Google Joel Anderson supervisor, it takes you right to it. We want to get those signatures. We want to get people involved.
Okay.
If somebody has a group they'd like me to come speak, I'm happy to walk them through it. There has to be a study by LAFCO. The LAFCO is an area organization that will explain where the tax dollars come from, because you don't want to vote on something and have just me telling you, oh, this is the way it's going to work. You really want to have a study saying this is where our tax base is going to come from and this is how we're going to get there. But Jan, I think that you could probably speak to this. If we were to build and restore those 58,000 homes, it's not 58,000 homes that are impacted. It's close to 200,000. You see, for every home that's built, it generates 3 sales. Somebody moves down a house, somebody moves up a house, and somebody buys a house for the first time. And so when you add more stock, there's this huge ripple effect. That means all that new tax base of Prop 13, those 200,000 homes that are impacted with sales, that's part of our new tax base.
Okay.
That's how we're going to pay for the city.
I think
All
we need to have you on about 10 more times.
Yeah. Yeah. We need
Well,
to
I'd love to be
talk
on.
about this some more, and it's as it gets closer to.
And one of the things is this last year, I added $24 million to the budget for roads in my district. And we've put in a lot of roads, repaired a lot of roads. A lot more need to be repaired. If I wasn't there, those roads wouldn't be repaired.
I believe that.
Well, we appreciate everything.
And my colleagues voted 3-2 to create a $5 million fund every year to give public defenders to people crossing the border illegally.
Yeah, I believe that too.
That's not our job,
Right.
but that's our road money being diverted for social activism that has nothing to do with the unincorporated.
Well, we're gonna get our grassroots ignited with this interview, and I will definitely be pushing this out there to make sure everybody understands that this is something we need to get behind. So let's come back again so we can talk about this more.
Yeah, we
depth,
would
dig
do.
in a little
I
bit.
absolutely love it, and thank
Many,
you so much
many
for
more times.
inviting me. And this is a beautiful studio, and
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you invited me.
Yeah, come back soon.
Well,
thank you for
you're
being
invited
My
again.
pleasure.
Here. Thanks, Jan. Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching Discover Ramona, and we'll see you next time. Okay.
Excellent.